Seriously?
It's not every day you see Daniel Naroditsky bamboozled by the insane tactics, but that's what happened in this game against Hans Niemann, and let's set the scene. Because Hans had just got back onto chess.com after being banned for about a year. It's September 2023 and they're in the midst of a blitz battle. It's 3-minute chess, no increment, which means no time added back per move. This is one of the most entertaining games you'll see all month. So here, e4 is played by Danya to kick us off. We get e5. The four horsemen of the apocalypse develop into the game. Bonus points if you can name the four horsemen of the apocalypse in the comments below. And now the moves I'm drawing on the board here, they're the most common ones. But Danya goes g3 here, the Gleck variation. And it's very dangerous, as we'll see. Watch this. So Hans develops. He plays some very natural, steady moves. Danya fianchettoing, singing at the top of his lungs in his best Italian voice, of course. That's what the top pros do. We get d6, d3. No d4 today, not in this structure. Watch what white does. a5, securing the bishop, giving a bit of room maybe one day. Castles. Both players chuck in these moves because obviously castles, king h2, bishop e6, and now watch the point of Danya's play, knight to d2, unleashing the f-pawn. This is why he nudged the king away. You don't want to be in check when you move the pawn. That would be impossible. So Hans has to respond to that attack. Now you can go d5, playable since there's no pressure on e5 anymore. It's a good move. But knight d4 played and f4. I would be pooping my pants, right, if I was playing on the black side of this. But watch what Hans does. Very instructive. He starts with b5. Now we get knight f3. The knight coming back after the pawn's moved. b4, kicking this one on c3 here, but Danya doesn't yet move it. He leans in, whispers into the mic, Zwischenzug, just as he captures on d4. This is what the top guys do when they play a German pronunciation move. After the bishop recaptures, then he drops back the knight, only now. Bishop b6 to preserve that bishop pair. And now Danya embarks on a side quest with pawn to f5. Can he put every single pawn on a light square? Keep your eye on those foot soldiers. So bishop d7, preserving the bishop. Bishop worth 3, pawn 1 wouldn't be a good trade. Now we see g4 played. Danya's doing well. He's got a connect 6 going. Look at that formation. And now this is a great defensive move. Very instructive. Knight to h7. Look at the dark squared grip that Hans is setting up, opening the lady from the d8 starting square. So knight g3 from Danya, rotating into the attack, classic attacking move. a4 now played, and after bishop d2, completing development of the minor pieces, hitting b4, I reckon I'd be playing bishop c5 here all day long, right, to cover the pawn. But I love this from Hans. He doesn't protect the pawn, he plays a3, because he's saying, you take me, I take you, you move your rook, I take here, I'm doing well. And he's correct. And it's really nice play therefore, because Danya has to push this pawn. Hurrah, he completes his connect 8, side quest completed, well done to him, no clue what the prize is. And now after bishop d4, picking up a tempo on the rook, moving to c1 therefore, Hans then goes c5. He's going for some dark squared grip, as you can see. So look at the difference there. Bishop active, pawns advanced, really nice stuff. So queen e1 from Danya, sliding into the attack, and more great play by Niemann, queen h4, sitting on the head of this pawn, as I like to say. No more h4 coming to then support g5. So bishop e3 played to challenge this monster of a bishop, wooden shield in the center of the board. We get knight f6 back, and it starts some tactics. This is just the start of the crazy tactics. There's so much to come. There's a threat to take with check and no pawn recaptures. There's a pin here, of course. So bishop f3 covers the threat. Now we get rook a b8. Hans turns into an international man of mystery. The mysterious rook move. Get in your opponent's head, just shuffle your rooks. They'll be freaked out. And in response, Danya does one of his own. Not so mysterious though. He potentially wants to attack one day. Hans also covers this pawn now with his. You know, if takes, c pawn recaptures if is possible. Desirable move to then target the backwards pawn. I digress. Knight h7 back. Looking at dark squares once more. Queen e2 and now g6. Interesting move. Who's really attacking whom down the g file? The rook comes to f1 now. King g7 and bishop f2. Danya, a master of the dark arts, because he lines up the bishop with the queen. So Hans takes, queen recaptures, but there's a nasty, nasty threat in the air. Look at the king on g7 in the checking line of the knight. Then the queen would be open to this one, exposed, naked on h4. This needs a PG rating on it because that one's about to drop, but Niemann sees it. Such a tactical game. He steps back. Bishop g2, opening the eyes of these heavy pieces here. The knight comes back to f6. Queen e2, both players keeping tabs on the clock here. 1 minute 26 to 1:37. Rook g8, Hans wants to pile on down that g file. Bishop f3, and now he takes, opening the file. Both pawn moves recapturing are possible according to my trusty friend here, the Silicon Overlord, the all-seeing computer. But Danya goes for this one, sharing control of the g file with Hans. Now we see rook g5, of course Hans preparing to double, and knight h1. Weird looking move, but tons of pressure about to build on that piece. So Danya retreats defensively. The rook doubles on the file here. Queen e3 played, and now this is where the game absolutely explodes into life. Insane tactics. Now the computer wants to trade all the rooks here, and after the queen recaptures, land some kind of check, start doing some funny business down here. Queen recaptures forced, by the way. If the king ever goes, this pawn drops. But what Hans does is way trickier. He plays the move of pawn to d5 here. How is this possible? You're leaving two pawns hanging, but especially this e5 pawn. Now if takes immediately, queen takes, well, you're leaving the defense of the rooks. So first Danya takes here, then the rook recaptures. Now he takes on d5. I mean, look at that. That pawn is more tender than... Okay, I don't have an end to that sentence. Please help me out. But why is this possible? Well, because of the following combination. Only one move works here, and it's the brilliant bishop takes on f5. Why is this so good? Well, it pressures here, of course, threatening mate, but sets so many nasty tactics. Because if you played the most natural move in the world, bishop g2, right, covering, well, you just walked in to knight g4. Hans goes to Forktown, population Danya, that's game over, you're dropping the lady. And if instead of bishop g2, you try knight f2, now you've left the defense of g3. Check, king goes, this is crashing through, it's game over. The tactics are just horrendous. So, bishop e2 played, as we've just seen, opening the queen to defend laterally here, cover the checkmate threat, and now Hans finds the absolute top move. This is where Danya's just incredulous here. You know, he doesn't bring the knight this way or move the king maybe from some checking line. He plays knight takes on d5, the most provocative move going, because it allows Danya to take a pawn with check. The knight is hanging. What do you do here? Well, the next move is a great move according to game review, but really we need to consider this a brilliancy in my view, because it truly is. Hans goes against Ben Feingold's advice and plays pawn to f6 here. covering the check, leaving an entire knight hanging, but you can't touch it because the moment you take, this is then a checkmate using the queen. It's no good. This is Danya's face at this moment. Look at it.
Seriously?
So what to do? The engine wants to take the bishop, sack a queen here. That's how bad things are. But Danya goes for this check down here. We see the rook blocking, then he ducks back with the queen to swap them off the board. No more takes, of course. You are X-ray defending the square, and there's this amazing move. I've got to show you why the evaluation bar is minus 37.8, aka you're dead as doornails, and it's for this incredible move. Well done if you spotted this. Sorry, I didn't pause too long. Of knight to f4, sacrificing the queen to land rook g2, checkmate. Wow. The knight on h1, stopping the retreat. What about that for a move? Anyway, missed of course. Hans is insanely good at chess, but he's not Stockfish. So instead, we see the queens coming off the board. Bishop recaptures, bishop g6. We're heading to an endgame here. So Danya keeps the bishop on the board. Knight is hit, knight c3, pawn on a2 attacked, and this is pleasant for black. You know, you've got the advanced pawn here, creates tactics. Rook e8 takes that open file. King g2 scurrying over. f5 now, knight f2 activating, king g7, knight d1 challenging this strong piece. It backpedals back to b5 here, king f2, knight d4 hitting c2, and it forces a blunder out of Danya. He defends with knight to e3. It's a horrible position, but it's a straight up tactical loss, but Hans misses it. Can you find the move? Well done if you did so. It's the brilliant rook takes on e3. King recaptures and you go to Forktown. Game over. You can trap in the knight, by the way. Whoops. But to actually win it, you have to bring the king all the way back. If I could draw arrows. All the time that will take. This one marches in. Your pawns are toast. Those ones run through. So this was the tactical winning shot. Not played, missed, they're low on time. Instead we get f4, dislodging the knight so you can then take on c2. Similar idea but not as strong. Rook c1 played. Now this pawn drops on d3. Hans is 2 pawns to the good. But Danya wins one back. The bishop's attacked, retreats. Bishop g4 now. Rook f8 covers that loose piece. We get a pair of minors finally coming off the board. Everyone's head is spinning from the complications. King g3, knight d4, and now the rook activates. Danya fighting hard. We see king f6, now knight d3, pressuring c5. There's swings in the evaluation bar. We won't go down every rabbit hole. They're on seconds. Knight e2 check, king back, now knight c3, hitting this tender pawn. Tender as a chicken breast. Maybe that's what I should have said earlier. Now knight d3. b4 is dropping. There it goes. Now it's just a rook end game. This is technically holdable when you run it with the engine. We get some more moves coming in. In a moment, Hans has a brilliant winning shot here, right in this position. Again, he misses it. But let me show you this. It's instructive. Rook takes on h3. If captures, you've got the classic skewer of the kebab and you win the rook. If you don't capture the pawn and you try and run the king over, well then you do this, you still make the queen, and this pawn just runs way too fast. You make your bishop, you draw the game of course. Just kidding, you'd make the queen. So coming back here, this was a winning shot, but missed. We get rook b2 check. Now the king goes, we get to this position here where a pawn for h pawn gets liquidated, and now how about this for one of the most incredible photo finishes? It's best appreciated with this clip.
With plan one. With plan one.
What a finish. That is just incredible. And if you enjoyed this as much as I did, smash subscribe to never miss a future video. And for another mouth-watering encounter, check out the video on screen. You're going to love it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you soon.